Test, 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 test. All right. Snowing. I'm kind of going a little mad, but I would like to talk about the soul. I know that's an iffy subject for a lot of people, but I find that it's a necessary discussion because a lot of people are just ignorant of their soul. Or more accurately expressed, I like how the way Alan Watts talks about it. He says, we are not human bodies, humans with a soul, we're humans within a soul. And some of my meditations and readings have led me to understand that this is only one small fragment of a greater reality that can only be glimpsed at times. But this is one step in a long process of evolution. How each individual life is a preparation period for something. Now, what are we preparing for? I don't know. But I've always wondered why people have ignored that which is within them, or if they even understand that what that inner world entails. One of my critics that attacked me for having an imagination, and Albert Einstein says that imagination is probably the most important thing that a human being has. And I find it funny that people would not like to color their lives with imagination, with the possibilities. They're stuck. But my shamanic friends keep telling me I need to go to India and talk to someone about this, or find a guru or someone. But the Kali Yuga. And if the Kali Yuga is the spiritual dark age of mankind, and essentially what that means is that we are ignorant of our soul. If the spirit is the light which allows us to see the soul that we are in, then our spirits are very dim. And we can tell that the soul that we are in, nature, she is a cyclical being. She's eternal. She goes forth and blossoms and dies every spring, summer, fall, autumn, and winter, and then comes back again. And we are only here temporarily to experience it. And we've definitely fucked it up. Missoula, Montana has broke 100-year snow record, and it's still snowing. I can't even get my dog to go poop outside. And he loves the snow. So we definitely are ignorant of our connection to this spirit or soul. And I think that that's because our spirits are so weak. I keep trying to get people to talk about esoteric and occult stuff, and really people I meet a lot of dabblers, and I don't. If I've learned anything about myself, I don't dabble in anything. I might taste it, and if it doesn't suit me, go on to the next thing. But as soon as I find something that I can do and accomplish, I put everything of myself into it, regardless of the consequences. Which, if we also understand about the virtues that we need to cultivate within ourselves, as the Tao teaches, then that is the only way to bring them forth. And I came across this thing. I like Friedrich Nietzsche. I like how different he is than most Western philosophers. He very much would have mended well with the Taoists and the Buddhists and all that. So he was more of a heart person, and people who misunderstand Nietzsche are all the people that are brain people who don't give the heart a second consideration. And I find that his idea of the Superman, someone was talking the other day about, I talked with someone the other day, how they were liked the idea of the Superman, but thought that no person could ever achieve it. And I was like, what are you talking about? We have stories of these people all the time. We have Buddha, we have Christ, we have Miyamoto Musashi, we have Krishna, Rama, Lao Tzu. We have these people that are somehow superior to the rest of their fellow men in just their normal way of thinking. And I think that, and Nietzsche says that not everyone should approach this path. Most people want to stay in the herd. From what I've read about the left and the right hand path, it's the self-deification or self-enlightenment versus enlightenment of the whole, lifting up the whole. And where the Buddha talks about the middle path is a little bit of both, where it's the balance. It's the separating oneself from the herd, not necessarily for self-deification, but as someone that is like part of the whole, that can work in the whole. I mean, this is just my own understanding of it, so I'm not Buddha. But the interesting thing about the Superman concept is that it mirrors a lot of the Bhagavad Gita, how Krishna talks about how the only soul that is worthy of immortality is that which is unmoved by circumstance, heat, cold, pleasure, pain, desires, that he remains the same regardless of whatever it is that they are experiencing, male or female. I'm more personal in my personal opinion of the male-female dynamic. I believe that spirituality is created for men because men need it. Women don't necessarily need it. They're already connected with nature through their moon flow, if you want to keep it PG. And so men, it's the Cherokee have this saying that a woman's highest calling is to lead a man back to source. And women are already in tune with source, I believe. I grew up with women. I thought that growing up with women would help me understand them. Maybe it has in a sense, but doesn't make me understand them any better. Except for the fact that I do understand that I do think that spirituality is mostly created for men to bring them back to source, like the Cherokee say, because the man's ultimate highest ideal is to allow women to walk freely upon this earth without fear. And if a woman's already connected to source, then the thing that she's afraid of is that which is not connected to source. And so her goal is to bring a man back to the source so that a man can not be an animal, not be a beast, but be a man and allow her, the feminine in her incarnation, to walk freely upon this earth. And this is where we have to get beyond. If we're going to look at, I'm rambling, so things make sense in my head, and I'm trying to explain them as best as I possibly can. And I hope that I do a good job, because I spend a lot of time reading and thinking and reflecting. Because this is the only thing that I know that I can give that might help people find themselves, so that we can not fuck up our reality anymore. And get it right. Try to get it right. But I think, I'm going to talk about all religions, faith, and creeds that I've read about. And in the military, they have this thing called the sheepdog concept, and I hate it. Because there are wolves that come after the sheep. But what a sheepdog is just a trained animal. Doesn't think on its own. Even, sheepdogs even attack sheep sometimes and have to be put down. But the idea of the Ubermensch, the Superman, should be the idea of a shepherd, I think. And I like to use the shepherd concept, not of Christ, but of David. He's my favorite biblical character, and the only one in the Bible that's actually named a man after God's own heart, which I like because he's a scoundrel. He's a murderer. He's an adulterer, but still somehow, no matter all these things that he does, he still comes back to the place of being a man whose heart lives for his God. I don't believe that God is the one God. I like the story. And then even my favorite part is when the story where Nathan comes up and tells King David of this despicable man who has done all these things, and David stands up and he's like, "Bring me that, I will have the head of that man." And Nathan's like, "But David, that's you." Which shows that, even these superior men lose their way at times and can be brought back. And I find that this is the essence of what many men in these positions of power crave, is this being an Ubermensch, being a superior person. But they do it wrongly. I'm going to read this thing out of my Tao book. I'm going to read these two, 53 and 54, because I think that this will also help. Chapter 53. If all I know is a fraction, then my only fear is of losing the thread. The great way is easy, but people are forever being taken down sidetracks. They look after the palaces, but ignore the fields. The granaries are empty, but they wear wonderful clothes. They go about with arms and gorge themselves on fine food and drink. How rich they are, and they have stolen it from all the poor. They are the robber barons of now, and this is not the real Tao. What is built on rock cannot be pulled down. What is held lightly can never be lost. Meditate on virtue within yourself, and you will find the benefit of virtue. Use it as the ground for the family, and your virtue will last for generations. Take it as your guidance for the village, and the place will blossom for years to come. Use it to guide the nation, and that nation will create abundance. Be guided by it for the whole, and it will flood its way over the world. So look after someone else as you would yourself, and treat other families as you would your own. See your community and other communities. Think of all countries as part of your being, and treasure the world as the round center of everything. How can I see the world like this? Because I have eyes. And I think that describes both the problem that we have today with the lack of spirituality and lack of being in touch with one's soul. We see all this glitz and glamour on television and in the news and politics, instead of these people basically be doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not doing their job. And that's a huge excuse that I get from everyone else. Oh, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. But who's doing the job for what and why? And the people that aren't striving to be free from this herd mentality are lost in the darkness of this era. We barely survive. We barely have a living wage. People have to fight to have a living wage. We have to fight for our health care. We have to fight for our essence. And that's not how it should be. We shouldn't have these meaningless struggles when we struggle enough in these lifetimes. And in order for these people to reconnect with this idea of this immortal soul, this being inside, because I think a lot of these communities in the world are created out of this fear of death, and thinking that this is the one life that we have to live. When as soon as you're gone here, you go on to the next reality. And whatever echo that you leave behind is just an echo. And so all these people are like, what's the point of accumulating so much stuff if you're going to lose it anyway? I mean, I've lost everything in my life multiple times. And I just have to rebuild it. I have to pick myself back up over and over and over again. And fuck, there are times that I've wanted to give up. Were times that I wasn't even sure if what I was doing was going to do anything. But I had this, I listened to my heart. And I ever since my time in drones, I've struggled with this concept of spirituality, especially the concept of how could God let me do this? I prayed that I would never have to kill a human being. And yet I got into the most disgusting fucking killing apparatus that we've ever created. And it's snuffed out that flame of spirit. And I lost sight of the immortal soul. And it's funny, it's strangely the people that have angered me the most, that have made me want to fight back, were the ones that gave me that inner spark. It wasn't the people that were trying to console or comfort me, because there really wasn't any of those. There was just, if you could think of my soul as being injured like a body, and I was bleeding profusely all over the place, most of the people that came to console me and help me were people who were lapping up my life essence and taking from me what they wanted, because I was giving it freely. But it was, when I got injured and I was like, fuck, I'm dying. I felt it. I felt this essence leaking out of me. And one of the things that one of the guys that I talked to that I actually had a lot of respect for at one point, but he's like, "You just want to be a martyr." And I was like, "Fuck, a martyr? I've read the stories. I don't want to be a martyr. There's nothing I believe in enough to die for, except for love, family, my heart." And the reactions that I've gotten from people, and I've spent a lot of time trying to understand them more than I care to admit, mostly because of my own stupidity of thinking that how can people like purposefully hurt others, and thinking that it wouldn't happen to me. There wouldn't be people that would just want to hurt me. And so I thought of everything else except for that simple fucking reason. And it's like saying to yourself, well, I'll never do that, or that'll never happen to me. And you know that when you fucking say that shit, it's going to happen to you. It was just like, before I met my son's mother, I was in essence praying to the figure of death, the universal figure of death, saying that my life has been worthless. All this has been meaningless. No one fucking listens. No one cares. They just want to use me to get their fucking story, but no one wants to change anything. No one wants to be a proper soldier. No one wants to fight for the right cause. It's all about money and greed and bullshit. Someone called me a relic of chivalry the other day. I can be a relic. My soul is old, and according to some of my shamanic journeys that I've taken, this is my last life, so I won't ever have to come back to this blasted reality ever again. But I can't escape this reality. I mocked death. I started the reignition of my spiritual searching through Carl Jung's work, and a little bit of Nietzsche and philosophy. And one of the pilots that I used to fly with all the time was like, "Church, you'll never make money as a philosopher." But my soul is so much worth so much more because of it, because of this knowledge and wisdom I've acquired through a lot of pain and suffering. And I find that is what I'm going to take with me when I die. However, I'm not dead yet. And I don't know why. Because I've given plenty of people the opportunity to do it to me. I've even attempted it myself. Twice. And then was going to do it when I met my son's mother. I was mocking death. I was like, there's nothing that you can give me. Nothing and no one that you could fucking give me in this world that would keep me in it, seeing the fucking filth of humanity. And I lost faith. I lost faith in our fight because I didn't think that I thought that I was the only one that was really understood the nature of this war. And I don't do anything half-assed. I don't dabble. But then I met her. And I remember choosing to love her. That's what I wanted. I wanted someone that I could choose to love. I don't really talk about this much often, but I believe that I made a pact with the people that I had killed. Honestly, Rhaenyra would say that I made some sort of death deal, got supernatural powers, but when I met her, they left. It was like, okay, we brought you to this point. Goodbye. As if they had escorted me to get to the point where I wanted to have love in my life. Because I was searching for it. And it's not gotten through sex. Sex is just a medium of expression. And then when I realized that she couldn't love me the way that I wanted to be loved, or didn't understand the romantic ideals that I had, she was very emotionally abusive. And I'm an emotionally tender man. But I had believed so much in the idea of what my grandfather taught me about love. And I just find it, if I ask older people for wisdom, there's this Reddit post that I read the other day about this guy talking with a Hispanic woman about love and how it's a clearing to be found to build something in rather than finding the golden city of El Dorado. I don't think that she or any of the women that I've ever been with really understood this. I've tried to share it. And I think she was the closest person that I think could understand anything that I talk about. And she didn't, or refused to. And so I just found out my Morgan Freeman interview is like spreading like wildfire over in Europe right now. Europe and the Middle East, people are seeing it, and they saw my Asatru Thor's hammer that my son's mom gave to me. And this woman contacted me, actually a couple women, but this one in particular angered me because she was like, I'm a journalist. I see that you're a heathen, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, she played off of it was like, okay, she saw the tenderness shit that I had been putting out there. And she tried to pluck every one of those strings to get a connection with me. And I've had this happen too many times to where when I see the manipulation happen, it's like when someone tries to make me jealous, I cut them off because I don't like the feeling of jealousy. And someone who tries to make me feel jealous isn't worth my fucking time. Just like anyone who manipulates me. I'm not going to manipulate you, but I'll let you do your own thing and I'll watch it fucking play out. And I'll be able to predict exactly how it's going to play out. I fucking hate you, military. Fuck you for teaching me this stuff. Yeah, this woman, I mean, heathen. What the fuck is heathen? Someone who doesn't follow the normal, acceptable ways by society. I think people should be just able to discover their own essence of spirituality. Whether they believe that they're a witch or a wizard or a psychic or whatever the fuck that they want to call themselves. I'm an alchemist. I practice Nighton Taoist alchemy, which is inner transformation. And it's methodical. It's I would argue scientific, because I can sit there and observe results in myself. There's even videos of Buddhist monks being attached to brain wave readers and MRI machines, and how they can just sit there and change how their nervous system and brain functions just by focusing on it. Even the World Health Organization. I've been getting acupuncture for the last 2 months, and it has been amazing. Even the World Health Organization acknowledges the usages of acupuncture. And I had my doubts. I've had my doubts about a lot of things, especially since the military destroyed my connection with Christianity. But spirituality is so much more than one religion or philosophy can put into anything. That's why I like the Tao. It's practical. It speaks to the essence of the human nature directly. And whatever your spiritual connection, it's your environment. It's your inner world. Like, as above, so below. As what happens in the heavens happens down here on earth. You know, the cycles, the time changes, just on a smaller scale. And whatever happens externally also happens internally. The changing of the seasons, the growth, the death, the renewal, all these types of things. It's real. It's true. Now, I'm a skeptic for what a lot of people say about what they do and what they're able to accomplish. Like psychics. I had a psychic reading the other day, paid for by someone because I was angry. And I thought that I needed it. But it was an interesting experience because it was done over the phone. And I used this as a reflection method. Like, what would this woman bring out of me? Because it's not necessarily, I don't believe that she talked to any dead person for me. She used a lot of, I understand the vague, ambiguous terms that they use. I mean, I read tarot, and tarot isn't supposed to do anything other than tell yourself a story about something you're thinking of and use it as a reflection method. And I read runes, and all rune reading is just pulling shit out from your subconscious. I read a lot of Carl Jung and his contemporaries, and Malcolm Gladwell, like Blink, and James Hillman, the Soul's Code, and the Force of Character, and all these types of deals. And they all, this is going to go back to the Immortal Soul and the Ubermensch and everything. They all talk about this cultivation and development in this process, and it's all self-reflection. It's like the opposite of what real life is. The opposite of school. I think Asimov said it, where in school you have the lesson and then the test, and in real life you have the test and then a lesson afterwards. And I definitely know that I learn a lot better when I have my test first. I'm given a subject and saying, all right, this is what you're being tested on. And then I see what I know, and then see what I need to learn. And then I go back and I learn what I need to learn. I tried to explain that to so when I was testing for SEER, I had to take this test on a computer where they asked a bunch of the same questions over and over and over again in different ways, and they wanted to see how you answered. And it was supposed to take me 3.5 hours, and I did in like 40 minutes. And the guy was like, he's like, oh, you probably screwed something up, but we'll take a retest on it in a few days. And then a couple days later, he calls me into his office. And what I had done was I'd figured out that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were all shortcuts to answer the question. And they wanted me to, they had this little fucking ball mouse that you had to roll and click on the answers individually. And after the first couple answers, I was like, that's frustrating. So I just looked at the keyboard and I was like, I hit 1 to see if I was going to hit the answer for the next button, and it worked. So then I just sat there and hit numbers. And I know from tests like that, because I've taken them before when I was younger, that you're not supposed to really think about them. Use use my gut instinct to I read through the list, and whatever my gut hits first as like this is the answer that I should this reflects mostly what's inside of me. It's like multiple choice questions that you had in school, and if you knew the right answer and you did it, and then you doubted yourself and you changed the answer. I would always change the answer back in high school. Yeah, the first 2 years in high school, I would do it. And then after that, I was like, I'm just gonna, if I don't know the answer, I'm just gonna go with whatever my gut tells me, and I would be right, probably 80+% of the time. And I didn't know that, but that's a skill that is developed. It's uh, um, something that we disconnect ourselves in the Taoist philosophy. It's we live too much up here. In the Hindu philosophy, we also live too much in here. So our goal should be to get out of the head and into the heart. But in Hindu philosophy, because that's where the Lord of all hearts sits. Um, but in Taoist philosophy, they say that you're not truly a living until you're living in the lower dantian, and the dantian is right below, like a thumb length below the belly button, and it's a golden egg, a golden sphere. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the immortal soul. And how this all plays back to the immortal soul is that so one of my buddies told me the other day, he taught me Tibetan dream yoga and all these types of things. And so as I've been practicing these things, I haven't really had much to do. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for people to get back to me and respond to my emails. But now I'm actually pretty sure that almost none of my emails actually get out of my inbox, and my computer and shit's bugged. Um, but whatever, I don't really give a shit anymore. So because it's allowed me to do these inner works without, like, if someone's going through enough trouble to do that to me, I might as well spend that time to do something for myself. And my friend was like, he's like, so I've been trying to kick open my third eye with these old practices, and I realized what I was doing wrong. It's not something you kick open, it's something that you put a light behind so you can see. Everyone's got it. And the third eye is the inner eye, the eye that allows you to see reality. You got two eyes to see, and one eye to look. And I had been practicing this before I met Melissa. I had been practicing this before going to bed, of like staying awake in a meditative state all through the night. And then for some reason, when I was with her one night, she was like, "What are you doing?" I didn't know what she was even saying. Like, I was practicing my breathing and going into meditative state, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Meditating." She said, "Stop that." And for some reason, I stopped. Like, but so I've been doing this dream yoga, Tibetan dream yoga, and I got to this point where I can't shut it off anymore. It's like my state of consciousness is the same while I'm sleeping and while I'm awake. And I freaked out because it's like, if anyone's ever taken LSD, it's like taking LSD and not being able to turn it off. And what LSD does is that it unifies the brain into one working mode. And a few years ago when I took it, I'd done a lot of research, and I had been hoping that the damage that had happened to my brain with my accident in Sear, I could fix with it. And I definitely know that I did something. It changed something in my brain. But I was also inspired by the when the Beatles went to India and they gave a guru LSD, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is the state right before I get into nirvana." And so I did some experimentation on myself to push through that, and use the LSD to prime my mind, and then to understand the state of being in that mindset. But that goes away. It's like only lasts 8 hours or so. But then using your chi, or using that energy to climb through those pathways in the mind, right? To follow that path again, and to ignite those channels with your will. I thought that I'd gone too far. There's someone that this is why I'm very selective with my usages of psychedelics, except for the purposes for which they are intended by nature, to heal the human. And I've done a lot of research, but I've also read a lot of the horror stories and bad trips experiences. And one guy I talked to was like, he took so much LSD when he was a teenager that he says that the light's always on in the attic. And when I had first broke through that barrier, I was like, oh shit, I'll never be able to turn it off. But the difference between, I find between the usages of a drug and that consistency of it, is that you have no control over it. The drug does the work itself. But according to, and you can credit the VA for showing me this fucking video, but doing it in your own, even if you use the psychedelics as a way to help prime the mind and body to be able to walk these paths, doing it yourself allows you the state of so much control over it, and the ability to turn that light on and just see willfully it's all the shit that human beings are capable of every human being's potentially capable of doing this. It's part of the reason why the British colonization of India was so harsh, is because there were people, recorded essences of people doing more incredible shit than I've ever given credit to human beings able to do. But it's because they were able to turn on that light of spirit and see the immortal soul for what it truly is and utilize it. And I've only seen a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what is possible. But I no longer doubt. I've had my doubts, but also without the doubts comes a greater understanding and respect and fear. There are things out there that are powerfully malignant and malevolent, and people should be aware that walking around in the dark doesn't protect you from these things. It actually makes you easier prey for them. And so lighting that inner fire, that chi, that spirit, protects you from all sorts of danger. And while I do have doubts of mediums and people who use these abilities and things to hurt and control others, I don't doubt that they exist anymore. And that it is definitely part of free will, is using these things for the good and responsibility of all of mankind, regardless of race, religion, creed, sexual identity, or gender preference. Like, it should be every human being's endeavor to reach their potential, especially in a world now where we've changed the weather so much that the ability to grow food and harvest plants and animals is going to be severely limited unless we get our act together. And that means discovering your full potential, your connection with that immortal soul, in order to give. Brings me back to a conversation that I had with one of my former students. I'm no longer going to be his teacher because I don't think that he really gives a shit, honestly. He argued with me that it was more important for him to go and hustle and make money than for him to work on his self, discovering himself and understanding his self. Or after he had a supposed suicide attempt because he was unhappy, and I think he was just doing it to get attention. And he hasn't changed. He went back to doing the same shit that he was. It wasn't this event that he was orchestrated wasn't enough to. It wasn't. It wasn't the thing that was going to push him into being desperate enough to change himself. And I think that this fascination, this concept with money instead of living, is a big part of it, because it disconnects you from spirit or essence and blinds you to the soul around us. And I don't know what to do other than talk about it. And it's funny because I got word the other day that the viewpoint on me around the world, around certain circles, is that I'm mentally unstable. And people say that when they fuck with you, when they push your buttons and then you fight back. Like, that's not mentally unstable. That's being human. Fighting for your right and dignity and for truth and justice and honor. That's human. That's not mentally unstable. Giving into the bullshit is mentally unstable. Accepting our society as what it is mentally unstable. Thinking your belief constitutes reality is mentally unstable. This is why I like the occult practices, is because they discard belief entirely and they go after what can I experience and what is essence and what is truth. What is hidden from us and how can we discover it and bring it and what is hidden about ourselves. And I find that most people are afraid of themselves. They're afraid of their potential. I don't know why they're afraid of connecting with their soul or the soul. This is why I like the Bhagavad Gita. Open it if I can read something. All right. Like, I go back to this. I reference it all the time. It's amazing how this amazing how pertinent this is. How I've read this thing like 15 times, and how it's like the Tao, like the Tao Te Ching. I read it and I find that it is so saturated with wisdom that it's like nourishing my soul. It's nourishing this thing within me. It's like I've been living off of fucking bread and water, and then I read the Bhagavad Gita and it's like a meal. It's like a hearty meat meal, and the Tao is like the wine and desserts and the fruits and the true sustenance. And so, this is chapter 9, the sciences of sciences and the mystery of mysteries. I mean, probably chapter 9, which is probably my favorite chapter. And Lord Sri Krishna said, I will now reveal to thee, since thou doubtest not, that profound mysticism, which when followed by experience shall liberate thee from sin. This is the premier science, the sovereign secret, the purest and best, intuitional, righteous, and to him who practice it, pleasant beyond measure. They who have no faith in this teaching cannot find me, but remain lost in the purliest of this perishable world. The whole world is pervaded by me, yet my form is not seen. All living things have their being in me, yet I am not limited by them. Nevertheless, they do not consciously abide in me. Such is my divine sovereignty, that though I, the Supreme Self, am the cause and upholder of all, yet I remain outside. As the mighty wind, though moving everywhere, has no resting place but space, so all these beings no home but me. All beings, O Arjuna, return at the close of every cosmic cycle into the realm of nature, which is a part of me, and at the beginning of the next I send them forth again. With the help of nature, again and again I pour forth the whole multitude of beings, whether they will or no, for they are ruled by my will. But these acts of mine do not bind me. I remain outside and unattached. Under my guidance, nature produces all things movable and immovable. Thus it is, O Arjuna, that this universe revolves. Fools disregard me, seeing me clad in human form. They know not that my higher nature, that I am the Lord God of all. Their hopes are in vain, their actions worthless, their knowledge futile. They are without sense, deceitful, barbarous, and godless. But the great souls, O Arjuna, filled with my divine spirit, they worship me. They fix their minds on me and on me alone, for they know that I am the imperishable source of being. Always extolling me, strenuous, firm in their vows, prostrating themselves before me, they worship me continually with concentrated devotion. Others worship me with full consciousness as the one, the manifold, the omnipresent, the universal. I am the oblation, the sacrifice, and the worship. I am the fuel and the chant. I am the butter offered to the fire. I am the fire itself, and I am the act of offering. I am the father of the universe and its mother. I am its nourisher and its grandfather. I am the knowable and the pure. I am Om, and I am the sacred scriptures. I am the goal, the sustainer, the Lord, the witness, the home, the shelter, the lover, the origin. I am life and death. I am the fountain and the seed imperishable. I am the heat of the sun. I release and hold back the rains. I am death and immortality. I am being and non-being. Those who are versed in the scriptures, who drink the mystic soma juice and are purified from sin, but who, while worshiping me with sacrifices, pray that I will lead them to heaven. They reach the holy world where lives the controller of the powers of nature, and they enjoy the feasts of paradise. Yet, although they enjoy the spacious glories of paradise, nevertheless, when their merit is exhausted, they are born again into this world of mortals. They have followed the letter of the scriptures, yet because they have sought but to fulfill their own desires, they must depart and return again and again. But if a man will meditate on me and me alone, and will worship me, and always everywhere will take upon myself the fulfillment of his aspirations, I will safeguard whatsoever he shall attain. Even those who worship the lesser powers, if they do so with faith, they thereby worship me, though not in the right way. I am the willing recipient of sacrifice, and I am its true Lord. But these do not know me in truth, and so they sink back. The votiaries of the lesser powers go to them. The devotees of spirits go to them. They who worship the powers of darkness, to such powers shall they go. And so too those who worship me shall come to me. Whatever a man offers to me, whether it be a leaf or a flower, a fruit, of water, I accept it, for it is offers with devotion and purity of mind. Whatever thou dost eat, whatever thou dost sacrifice and give, whatever austerities thou practice, do so all as an offering to me. So shall thy action be attended by no result, whether good or bad, but to the spirit of renunciation thou shalt come to me and be free. I am the same to all beings. I favor none and hate none. But those who worship me devotedly, they live in me and I in them. Even the most sinful, if he worship me with his whole heart, he shall be considered righteous, for he is treading the right path. He shall attain spirituality ere long, and eternal peace shall be his. O Arjuna, believe me, My devotee is never lost. For even the children of sinful parents and those miscalled the weaker sex, and merchants and laborers, if only they will make me their refuge, they shall attain the highest. What then to mention the holy ministers of God, the devotees, and the saintly rulers? Do thou therefore, born in this changing and miserable world, do thou too worship me. Fix thy mind on me, devote thyself to me, sacrifice for me, surrender to me, and make me the object of thy aspirations, and thou shalt assuredly become one with me, who am thine own self. Thus, in the holy book, the Bhagavad Gita, one of the Upanishads in the science of the Supreme Spirit, in the art of self-knowledge, in the colloquy between the divine Lord Sri Krishna and the Prince Arjuna, stands the ninth chapter, entitled The Science of Sciences and the Mystery of Mysteries. So, an hour has passed, and we leave with this. The immortal soul is what every single human being right now should be striving to see and to ignite and to understand. How you go about doing it is all yourself, but do so with care and do so with intent and purpose, because we need more of that, not the bullshit that I constantly see on Twitter and television, and not the bullshit that I constantly run into everywhere I go when I try to talk with people seriously about these subject matters, seriously about themselves. I don't give a shit what you're doing to make money. I don't give a shit what video games you're playing or books you're reading, unless they're something that nourishes you. Like, you can read The Lord of the Rings and that will nourish you. It's the stories that do, stories that give us a sense of ourselves and who we are, and a reflection tool for everything that we want to be. And we need people to go out and discover those stories for themselves. I hope that this has been enlightening. Shall continue tomorrow with story time. Thank you for being here.